What's going on? This is Ryan with Automatic Comics, and up next we are going to talk about the top 10 sales I saw last week. Stay tuned. Alright, so before we get started, please remember to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. The first video of the new year. Excited to make this one. See, I've got a new sweatshirt that my wife got me for Christmas. I was very impressed that she remembered One Punch Man and got this shirt, so super happy about this, so I thought this was fun. So, if you're not familiar with these videos, what I do is I watch the weekly Heritage comic auction, and I price out around 200 books, give or take, each week, all different keys from different ages, gold, silver, modern, bronze. And I pick out the sales that surprised me on the high end and the low end. So I pick 5 sales on the high end and 5 sales on the low end. And then I also, for a lot of the books, I'll give alternatives for those books because a lot of times they're real big sales, expensive books. And so I like to give alternatives that you also could pick up instead of these. So with that, let's get into that first sale. All right, now number 10, and this is a high sale. I've talked about this book before, actually a couple months ago with a low sale. This was Albedo number 2 with a CGC 9.6 that sold for a new record $24,000. Just a monster sale. Now, like the first appearance of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, this book has a very low print run. So it's a print run of about 2,000 books, and that has really driven up the value of this book because it is tough to get. This is the first appearance of Usagi Yojimbo, and his connection to the Turtles as well as his upcoming Netflix show have really been driving up the prices on this. Now, in the prior video I mentioned this one because there had been a low sale that I kind of regretted not picking up, but it's still a very expensive book. It doesn't matter what grade it is, just because it is so rare, similar to that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but $24,000. Big sale for this one. Now, I had estimated the price at $20,000, and this was 20% above that estimate. Now, with respect to records, this was not a tough record to break because it hadn't sold a copy in this grade since 2016, so about 5 or 6 years ago, and that was for just $2,266. So you can see, in just that 5-year span, this book has gone up 10fold, just a crazy increase in the price for this book. Now, I did actually see a post from Skeleton Key Comics, I don't know, a few weeks ago, where they picked up a 9.6 CBCS copy, so I'm guessing they're pretty happy with this sale, because I don't know what they paid for it, but because this was such a big record, I'm guessing they're probably pretty happy that this one hit that $24,000 mark. Now, for alternatives, there are a lot of alternatives for this book. So if you want to buy the book because you like the character, or if you're speculating on how that show is going to go on Netflix, a lot of great options. Just one issue later is his second appearance in Albedo number 3. In that same 9.6 grade, there was a high sale of $680, so way less, about 30-40 times less in August. And on December 13th, sale for $500, so much more affordable book. You've also got Albedo number 4, which is his third appearance, and in that same 9.6 grade had a high sale of $769, so in the same range, and a $500 sale in October. Now for those two, he is on the back cover of Albedo number 3, and he is on the front cover of Albedo number 4. So you do get him on the cover regardless. Now, the other one that tends to be pretty popular for that character is Usagi Yojimbo number 1. And in a 9.6, there was a high sale of $900 in July, and it's had a huge range recently in December, going from as low as $325 to $585. So all of these in the recent price ranges you could get for around $500 in a 9.6 in the same grade instead of $24,000. So much more affordable price ranges if you want to try to speculate on this book or you really like that character. All right, now number 9, and this was a low sale. This was G.I. Joe number 21 with a CGC 9.6 that sold for just $720. Now, this book has had a crazy year with respect to price moves throughout the year because of the whole comic book market exploding, as well as the G.I. Joe Storm Shadow movie that came out. Because this is the first appearance of Storm Shadow, And that movie really wasn't all that well received, so we have definitely seen some pullbacks in the prices for this book. But it is a popular book for a couple reasons. One reason is that first appearance of Storm Shadow. The other reason is it's a really unique book because there's no word bubbles in this book. It's a story that's told silently, and so it's just the pictures. And so it's got a couple things that people really like about it. It's got a great cover. Now, I had estimated the price of this book at $900. This was 20% below my estimate. The high sale from July 5th was $2,500. Now, I'm not sure if I trust that GPA sale. It's possible that that was a newsstand. There's no links to a picture. I couldn't find the sale on eBay, but I could find another sale that was $1,500 from around the same time. And so regardless, it's either down 71% from that high sale with this recent sale, or 52% with the $1,500 sale. So regardless, it has pulled back significantly from where it was earlier this year. Now, I do think that this is a much more reasonable price range for this book. It's around where it's been previously, and we do have more G.I. Joe properties coming out in the future. It's possible that this could see more increases in the future, but it had gotten really out of hand earlier this year. You can see with where those prices went, especially in the 9/8. 9/8 got extremely expensive. Now, this isn't really a book that you're going to have alternatives for. I would just go for a lower grade copy. In mid grades, you can get the book for anywhere from around $100 to $200. Raws could even be a little cheaper in that mid grade. But I think it's a cool book to own regardless. It's a very popular book in the G.I. Joe run, one of the most popular, if not the most popular book in the G.I. Joe run. And it's a fan favorite character, so a good book to pick up. One thing to be aware of is there are multiple prints of that book, and they can be very confusing about which one you're getting. So just be aware of that if you're flipping through long boxes or if you're looking at it at shows or online. Just make sure you figure out how to identify those different prints. There's some little tricks to do it. So that's just one that can often fool people on which print they're actually getting of that book. All right, now number 8. And I really like this book. I think it is a great first appearance cover, a great character, popular character. This is Iron Fist number 14 with a CGC 9.8 that sold for a new record $6,000. Now, this is the first appearance of Sabretooth. He's popular for a few reasons. He's kind of like he's a good villain. He's been portrayed well, I feel, in the previous X-Men movies. I like how he's been done, other than X-Men 1, not really X-Men 1. But the other portrayals, I think he's been done well. And it's also because he is one of the big antagonist villains for Wolverine. And so this is a popular book, always in demand. And you don't see 9.8s come up for sale all that often. Now, this was a big sale. I had estimated the price of this book at $4,500. This was 33% above that estimate. Now, prices on this book had been dropping recently. In other grades and even in some 9/8 sales, I had been seeing prices going down, so this one was extremely strong. Now, the prior record from back on May 30th was $5,520, but it had had a couple $4,800 sales in July and August. And like I said, in some other grades, it had been on kind of a downtrend. So that's why I had it at just $4,500. Now, this is an example now of another book that has come back up and passed that high from earlier this year. We were hitting all those highs around that May-June timeframe, and then pretty much most of the market had pulled back. But now we are seeing some books come back up, break new highs again, and this is just another one of those examples. So it's not every book that's coming back up, but it is very targeted, and I think this may be a sign to really watch Wolverine, those, Hulk 180, Hulk 181, Hulk 182, those types of books, because I felt like those have come down as well and probably really shouldn't have. We know we're going to get that character eventually. And so if we start seeing some other books related to Wolverine going up, hitting new highs, I wouldn't be surprised if the biggest book, first appearance of Wolverine 181 or his first cameo appearance in 180 really start to hit some of those prior high sales numbers. Now, for alternatives, I wouldn't really go for another alternative. He does have his second and third appearances later in this run, when it changes to Iron Fist and Power Man. But this is one where you get down into the lower grades. It's still not cheap, but you can get it a little more affordably, and this is really the book that most people are going to recognize and want. So in the mid grades, a decent mid-grade copy, it's going to cost you $300 to $400. That's more what I would go for instead of going for an alternative. Now, if you want to go and try to spend a bunch more money, you can try to find one of the rare 35-cent variants. So this is one of the ones where you have a price variant that was put out by Marvel around the same time as they were testing price increases in different markets. And this book is extremely expensive in that 35-cent price variant, generally costing around 10 to 20 times what the 30-cent traditional normal book costs. So keep your eyes open for that one, because in any grade, that book is extremely expensive. All right, now number 7. This is a low sale. This was Doctor Strange number 169 with a CGC 6.0 that sold for just $360. Now, this is the first self-titled issue for Doctor Strange from the Silver Age. This is similar to a book like Hulk 102, where it didn't actually start at issue 1. This just carried forward from the Strange Tales run. It just changed from Strange Tales 168 to Doctor Strange 169. And so now this is a book that, with everything that's been going on with Doctor Strange in the SpiderMan movies, with the Multiverse of Madness coming out, this book has been really hot recently. So I think this person probably got a good deal, other than it being a downtrend type thing for this book. And that's why I like to point out these sales as well, just to show that there are those deals out there. You can find those deals even on key, big, important books. Now, I had estimated the price of this book at $500. This was 28% below that estimate. Now, the record was $515 just from November 4th, but there was also a $489 sale on December 3rd. So this is a drop of 30% from that peak. And so I think really it's likely this person got a deal, especially with the hype around that character. Now, the alternatives for this book, this one is really already the alternative for his first appearance in Strange Tales number 110. So I would really stick with this one if you can, just go down to a little bit lower grade. But if you want to go for a different alternative, if there's another book, there's actually a book that I showed recently in an unboxing, and that's Strange Tales number 111. And this is his second appearance. It's also the first appearance of Asbestos Man, if you want to get that weird, sea-level, villain type first appearance. And it's not a cheap book by any stretch. It is still an expensive book, but you could find a really kind of like a low-grade copy in the $200 to $300 range. So if you want to go for that second appearance option instead of the first appearance in Strange Tales 110, that would be another alternative, along with Doctor Strange number 169. All right, now number 6, one of my favorite books. This was a high sale. This is Detective Comics number 359 with a CBCS 7.5 that sold for a record in grade of $4,080. Now, like I said, if you follow my unboxings, if you follow my Instagram, you know I like this book. I have a few copies of this book. This is the first appearance of Barbara Gordon as Batgirl. I think it's a great cover, cool purple cover from the Silver Age, has that just a really great look to it with that kind of like halo effect around Batgirl. Now, she does have a property coming up in HBO Max. I think it's a movie on HBO Max. I don't think it's a show. So that's one of the things that's really been driving the value for that book. Now, the other thing that's really interesting with this high sale is, like you can see up there, like I said, this is a CBCS book. This is not a CGC book, and it set that record, and it set it significantly. So I had estimated the price at $2,500. This was 63% above that estimate. The prior record from August 22nd was $3,466, but it had been as low as $2,500 on October 13th, and also a $2,900 sale right after this one on December 27th. And so now I wouldn't be surprised if the reason that $2,900 sale happened was because of this sale, because this one sold on, I think, December 26th was the actual sale date. And so that other one was an eBay sale, I believe, and sold for $2,900. So someone probably saw, someone spent $4,000 on a 7.5 CBCS. I'm going to pick up this 7.5 CGC right away. So I would not be surprised at all. Now, the thing to remember that's tricky with that, though, is that this $4,000 sale will not show up on GPA. GPA does not pull in CBCS sales. So for whoever bought the $2,900 book, that CBCS sale won't show up. Now, it will be on Go Collect usually, because this was Heritage and Go Collect does pull those in, but you have to go to a separate spot to get it, all this kind of stuff. So just something to be aware of when you're looking for those sales. Now, with that $4,080 sale, it even beat that record from August by 18%. So again, another book that seems to be really strong, coming back up and hitting new records again. It's a tough book in these high grades, but regardless, this was a very strong sale. Now, for alternatives for this one, it's a pretty expensive book in any grade. I mean, even down in very low grades, you're going to spend $400 or $500 just to get a copy of this book. So what you could do is go for the second appearance. She's also on the cover in Detective Comics number 363. So just 4 issues later, that same 7.5 would cost you around $250 to $275. So about 10 times less from where it had been selling. It may jump now with this $4,000 sale. It may go up to more around $350 to $400. I don't know. But even a 9.2 of this book you could get for $625 in December. So a book that you can get some pretty nice presenting high-grade Silver Age copies of a second appearance, and you don't have to really break the bank with that first appearance. But if you want that first appearance, get ready to pay up some for it because it is not a cheap book. All right, now number 5. This was a low sale. This was Thor number 134 with a CGC 9.2 that sold for $1,620. Now, I think I probably even bid on this book. I was considering buying this one. This was, I think, a very good deal on this book, but it's also, I feel like it's kind of a risky spec book to buy. Now, the reason this book has really been heating up lately is because there's lots of speculation we're going to see the High Evolutionary, this is his first appearance, in an upcoming Marvel property, likely Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, because of his connection to Rocket Raccoon. They'll go into maybe some origin with Rocket Raccoon. Now, the tough part with this character is that I could see this being a character that we don't get a lot of. It's going to be maybe a shorter term depiction on screen, similar to the Collector in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. So that's something where I could see this being a character that you see some price spikes going into a movie if there's confirmed news on that character, and then once the movie's done, the book's just falling really hard. I kind of think something like Ronan, the Accuser as well. Even if he plays a bigger role in the movie, that Fantastic Four 65 just tanked after Guardians of the Galaxy 1. And so that's something I would just be cautious of if you're buying this book, that I would think of it more as a flip type book than a long-term hold book. Now, I'd estimated the price at $2,300. This was 30% below that estimate. The record was actually $2,500 from October 22nd. This was 35% below that record. Now, like I said, it's a book that I think is a little risky, just because I don't know how long it will maintain those types of values. It is a Silver Age key, so it does have that going for it, but prior to this wasn't really a big popular character before the news that he's likely showing up in one of these movies, so I would just be a little wary of that. Now, it's not one that there's really any great alternatives for. The prices do drop reasonably once you get down into the mid and lower grades. So if you want to try to spec on this book and you don't want to drop $1,000, $2,000, then just go for something like a mid-grade, low-grade copy. A 5.5 sold for just $305 on December 14th and $375 on December 3rd. And so that's maybe what I would consider going for if you want to try to speculate on this book and not put too much risk of loss into it. All right, now number 4. This is a high sale, and it's tough for me to have one of these lists, and I don't have Amazing Spider-Man appear on it. Normally he's on, I think, just about every week. And this is Amazing Spider-Man number 16 with a CGC 8.5 that sold for a record $3,840. Now, this one, this is a cool cover. It's a very early appearance of Daredevil. It is his first crossover. He's still wearing his yellow costume. And with all the hype around Daredevil right now, it's not a real surprise that we had some big sales in this book, but this was a strong sale. I had estimated the price of this book at $2,200. This was 75% above that estimate. Now, it's not a book that sells all that often in this grade, but on October 31st, one sold for $2,266, and an Ado sold for $1,560 on December 19th. So regardless, this was a big sale. That $2,266 sale was the prior record, and so this was 70% above that record. So a big one. It almost actually even hit the 9.0 sale from December 17th that went for $3,900, just $60 shy of that 9.0 sale. So very strong sale for this book. Now, this is one that it's actually, even though it's early Spider-Man, it's still relatively affordable in the lower grades. So you could go down into the $3-4 range. You could get this book for maybe around $500, somewhere in that range. So it is a reasonably affordable Amazing Spider-Man key, early Silver Age key. But another option that you have, if you want to go for something similar to kind of like the crossover, you could go for Daredevil number 16, which is the crossover of Spider-Man into Daredevil, also the first time that John Romita draws Spider-Man. So it's got that's really the big key thing for that book. Now, this book used to be extremely affordable, but it has gotten quite a bit more expensive over the last year. That same 8.5 is going to cost you around $1,200 to $1,300, so not cheap, but about 3 times less than what was just sold for this Amazing Spider-Man 16. You could get into lower grades again, and you can get it much more affordably. You could probably get it in the for a couple $100s in the low grades, but still relatively expensive, but a cool key alternative if you're looking for a crossover with Daredevil and Spider-Man. All right, now number 3, this is a low sale. I thought this was a cool book. I don't see this one come up for sale very often. This was Large Feature Comic number 16 with a CGC 4.0 that sold for a record $3,360. Now, it was a low sale, still a record, but just a record because it has never actually sold publicly in this grade. But based on other sales, I still thought that this was low. Now, if you haven't seen this one before, that is not a surprise. This is not a book that comes up for sale very often. It's from 1941, and it is the first appearance of Daisy Duck. She appears on the back cover of this book. So this is one of those Disney keys that I've talked about, that I was thinking about making a video about. This would be one of those Disney keys. Now, I had estimated the price of this book at $5,000. This was 33% below that estimate. And the thing that's really unique or strange, I think, with this one is that I rarely ever see this book come up for sale. It hardly ever comes up for sale, but there have been 3 sales very recently of this book. And you'll notice that happen when you have a book that doesn't sell often. If that first sale has a big number, then what you'll often see is a few other copies of it come out as people are trying to take advantage of that, because that first person took the risk. They saw a big sale, and then everybody else that owns the book is like, oh, I'm going to try to sell that book and see if I can get some big money for that book as well. Now, the reason that I had estimated this price at $5,000 is the 2 recent sales. There was a September sale of a 2.5 that went for $2,880. And there was a December 6th sale of a 1.5 that went for $2,040. So that's why at the 4.0, I had this estimated at $5,000. So I think this person probably got a good deal. It's a tough book though, because I mean, it's a lot of money, and it's a Disney key, and it's a book that probably not a lot of people are really aware of. And so it's probably one, if you're trying to resell it, you're going to be holding on to it for a little while. But I still think probably a pretty good buy with that book, given those other 2 sales. Now, like I said, the reason that you don't see this book come up for sale often is it is a pretty rare book, especially graded. Only 10 universal copies on the census, and just 14 in total. That includes restored, qualified copies. So rare book, which is really crazy to see 3 of them in different grades. So that means they're all 3 different books come up for sale that close together within a few months, when they're really, I can't think of a time that I've seen this book come up for sale in the last few years. So I thought that was pretty crazy. Now, alternatives, this isn't really a book you're going to have an alternative for. This is a old, 1940s, World War II era Disney key. I think this is just a cool book that if you want that Daisy Duck first appearance, you're going to have to be ready to pay up for it and keep your eyes open for the times it comes up for sale. I mean, this is the 3 sales that we see, and we don't see it again for a year or 2 or more. So just remember that with these Golden Age books, sometimes you have to take advantage of it when that happens, or you might not see it again for a number of years. All right, now number 2, this was a high sale. This was Captain America number 117 with a CGC 9.0 that sold for a record $3,360. Now, this book has actually been on a pretty straight line down since the end of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show, so this was definitely a surprise to see this one hit that big record. Now, it was also a White Pages copy, but something I've actually noticed with this book is there are a fair number of White Pages copies out there of it, and I think it's a late Silver Age. It's 1969, so they're a little more prevalent for this book. I see them pop up enough, and so I had estimated the price of this book at $1,800. This was 87%, almost double the price that I had estimated for this book. So this was a huge sale. Now the record from way back on May 3rd, so when we were in that peak time for these books, was $2,850. And so this was 18% also above that record. So big sale for this book. Now, the crazy thing that really made this sale just so surprising, so shocking to me, that why it's the number 2 surprising sale, was that a 9.0 White Pages copy on Heritage sold 2 weeks ago for $1,800. That was the recent low, really, for that book. And so you had an $1,800 sale, same grade, same page quality, 2 weeks ago. Now we have a $3,360 sale just 2 weeks later. Now, this is the kind of thing that you can sometimes have happen around the holidays, where I've mentioned that this is the time of the year you can get deals usually because people are focusing on other things, but you can also have that occasional record, and so this is why you can sometimes have this big price fluctuation in these books. So big jump in this book over a very short period of time. Now, regardless, I do think this is a good book to own, at least on the short to medium term, with the Falcon character as Captain America in the MCU. It's also it's a cool Marvel key. It is a good key. He's on the cover, great cover, and he's also playing a central role in the MCU right now. But I don't know how long they're going to carry that forward with him as Captain America. So just something to be aware of if this is a book that you're looking to turn or sell. Just watch when he's going to show up in various properties and be ready to sell it when he does, if you see those price moves. But if you just want to hold on to it, that's fine as well. I think it's a solid long-term key to hold regardless, especially with how in general it has pulled back from those highs earlier this year. That's the time when you really want to try to pick up books like this. Now, for alternatives, personally, I would just try to go for a lower grade. In the 3 to 5 range, it's going for around $300 to $400 right now. That's what I would try to pick up, but you could go for his second appearance, one issue later in Captain America 118. It's a much more affordable book, and he's on the cover. So that's just an alternative that you could have for this book if you don't want to spend the few $100s that you really are generally going to have to spend to get a copy of this book. All right, now number 1, this is the most surprising low sale on the list, and sticking in the Captain America title. This was Captain America number 100 with a CGC 7.5 that sold for $582. Now, like these Doctor Strange 169 I talked about earlier, this is similar. This is effectively Captain America number 1 for the Silver Age. And this book has been all over the place lately. It's had prices that have hit records, it's had prices that have been really low, and I think it's a lot of question about what is going on with Captain America in the MCU. And because we're not going to see Chris Evans as Captain America anymore, and so I think people are maybe unsure about how to value this book moving forward. But I had estimated the price of this book at $925. This was 37% below that estimate. The record was $965 from just November 6th, and there was a $925 sale on December 12th. But since then, there have now been this $582 sale, and a few days later, there was a $643 sale. So it's a tough one to really value right now. It's hard to say what it's going to do moving forward. It is a solid Silver Age key for Captain America. It's a cool cover. It's effectively a number 1. So both great things. Stan Lee was still working on this book. I actually have a Stan Lee signed copy of this one because I think that's a cool one to have signed by him. But the prices have been kind of, like I said, really all over the place with this one. Now, there does seem to be a big price jump in this book between the 7 to 8 range. And so I think that's maybe also what's been a little tricky with the 7.5 is sometimes it's going up to where that 8.0 is selling, and sometimes it's dropping down to where the 7.0 is selling. That's something that you'll actually see in a lot of books where they'll have just this single point where they jump significantly. Amazing Spider-Man number 11 is another one. When it gets up to like the 7.0, it has a huge spike in the price of that book. And so it seems that this one is relatively similar, where it has a pretty big spike at that 8.0 range. And so you get a lot of variability in what people are paying at that 7.5 price. But regardless, I think this is a cool book to own. It's an iconic character, great cover, like I said, technically a number 1. And so I wouldn't really go for an alternative with this one. Just maybe try to go for those lower grades, or like I've shown here, if you really monitor it, you can find some deals on this book. Alright, so those were the top 10 surprising sales I saw this week. Hope everybody had a Merry Christmas, has a Happy New Year, and looking forward to making more videos this year. If you want to watch some of my other videos, I've got more videos over here. If you'd like to subscribe to the channel, I would really appreciate it. The subscription button is right here, and I will see you in the next video.